It's late September 2013 at the Boston Athletic Association. How is the organization approaching the 2014 Boston Marathon?
As we look forward to the 2014 Boston Marathon, uppermost in our minds is preserving the tradition, the character of the Boston Marathon as an event devoted to competition and excellence. So as we take account of all of the factors that press us to increase the size of the field, to accommodate an opportunity to pay tribute and to honor all of those who were most affected by last year, we do it against the background of wanting to make sure that the Boston Marathon remains the Boston Marathon. And all of the other changes we may make will be done against that background.
This year the BAA announced the field size would increase by 9,000 for a total field size of 36,000 for the 2014 Boston Marathon. How did you arrive at that?
This year we'll have a larger field size because this year, which is really 2014, is a year unlike any other. After what we and everyone else here in Boston and really around the world experienced on April 15th of 2013, there has been a strong desire to respond, to show strength, to show resilience, to show that people won't give in. In the face of that, working with our various public service partners, the cities and towns through which the race passes, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and others, we have looked at an increase in the field size as one way to provide that response, one way to provide that show of resilience.
And registration began in August with a special group and continued in September with another special group, the qualifiers. Can you please talk about how that process played out?
As we have looked at the registration process for 2014, the first group we looked to were those people who were unable to complete the race last year. As we look at the spirit that has come to be identified as Boston Strong, it refers to people who don't give in. We mean that to include runners, volunteers, spectators, everyone who lives around here, everyone in our sport who will not be deterred by terror. The first group we looked to were those people who ran last year and were forced to stop, and we knew they didn't want to give in, so we wanted to make sure that they had a chance to come back and finish what they started that day.
And in September, there was a 2-week process for qualifiers. The total number of qualifiers came in last Friday. Notices are going out this week. Can you talk about the notices that are going out for those accepted, and not everyone will be accepted?
Once we completed the initial registration process in August for those people who were unable to finish the race last year, we then turned to the more normal open registration process. And that has become a 2-week process that we implemented several years ago in order to bring some regularity and consistency to the entry process, such that people with the fastest times could enter first during the first week of registration. And in the second week, anyone with a qualifying time for their age and gender could submit an entry. And if at the end of those 2 weeks we still had spaces left, we would continue the registration process. In the event that we received more applications for entry than we had spaces for, then we would select from that group those with the fastest qualifying times. And that's what we have done. And what we have found this year is that the number of people submitting those applications for entry in the second week is greater than the number of slots that we have. The number of them, in a way, is rather similar to our experience 2 years ago, where we also didn't have room for everyone who applied for entry. And so we find for a second time in this year of great demand that there isn't room for everybody, but it is somewhat similar to our experience in the recent past.
And what would you say to a runner who met the qualifying time, submitted their application for entry and will not be accepted.
It is very, very uncomfortable for us at the BAA and for many of us, me included, personally, to have to say to anybody who has gone to the trouble of training, running hard, qualifying, and meeting our qualifying standards, any deserving runner, to say to them that we don't have room for them. Many of us know how that feels. I know how that feels. I have run marathons to qualify for Boston and failed, and I have run races to qualify here and succeeded. And I know how I would feel if I had succeeded in meeting a qualifying time and there wasn't space for me. We feel very badly for them, and we really hope that we will see them again.
How does the total number of qualifiers for 2014 compare with recent years?
This year, we're looking forward to 2014, the number of qualified runners we will have in the field will be greater. We have been able to allocate some of the additional slots in the field this year to qualified runners. Some went to qualified runners, some will go to runners who will enter via invitation. In making that allocation, we wanted to make certain that there were more numbers for qualified runners, and at the same time, we were true to the spirit that gave rise to the increase in the field size in the first place, which is a desire to show both the strength and resilience of our communities, all that are involved in this, and to provide the opportunity to pay respect, tribute, honor to those who were most affected by what happened on April 15th. So those extra numbers are allocated across both groups, but one effect of that is that there are more slots available for qualified runners than we have ever had before.